So today we have Dynasty, 1979.
Right.
So believe it or not, for such a simple album cover, I have a lot of questions that
It is simple. It is really simple, yeah.
my friend sent me questions. So let me just start by this question. Why did you decide to use a photo as opposed to an illustration? Was there ever a consideration to do another illustration like the type of destroyer?
Yeah, Bill O'Coin wanted to use Francesco Scavullo,
Photographer.
who was very famous at the time. Every fashion magazine cover known to man, and he did them every month. I mean, he was the guy. So Francesco Scavullo, he shot every top supermodel, Harper's, Vogue, Cosmopolitan, all the big, super glossy fashion magazines. Francesco, he was the man. His name was in the paper all the time as not just a photographer, but it would say, you know, photographer superstar Francesco Scavullo was at the Museum of Modern Art the other day, you know, having lunch, stuff like that. So he was a celebrity in his own right, and you know, known only as Scavullo. So, you know, Bill, being the type of guy that he was, he wanted to latch on to the celebrity, and then, you know, by proxy, you're also a big deal.
Right.
So I said, Scavullo? I said, you know, his photographs are, I mean, they're great, but it's usually a picture of a girl or some clothes, fashion, a lot of makeup. Scavullo, even his makeup artist, was practically world famous. A guy named Way Bandy. He was super famous because he was the only one that could do good makeup. I don't know, and or fashion kind of makeup. So I said, yeah, I know Scavullo is, you know, skillful and at what he does, but he does fashion photography. And if you look at it, is there anything creative there? Really, not really. It's just nice, good lighting and perfect makeup, and then they're wearing Valentino clothes. I mean, it comes out looking great, you know. I said, but what are we going to get out of Scavullo, out of this? I mean, it'll be a nice, clear, in-focus photograph. I didn't see any creativity behind it, really. And I guess maybe that was supposed to be my job at this point, but I didn't see how I fit in.
There's been a lot of speculation about the actual style of the cover that looks a lot like the first Beatles cover with the you know, the frame.
I know. I didn't even think of that when I was doing it. What I wanted to do was, usually with the word Dynasty, I wanted to make them look like, you know, Kiss as one. Kiss is a unit. The four make one, and that's Kiss, and they're a dynasty. And I wanted to put their heads together. They all have this jet black hair, you know, and I wanted the hair to just melt from one guy into the next guy. You really wouldn't know where one began, the other one left off, and you had the white faces would pop out, and it would look like a unit. And I explained that to Scavullo. He didn't do much with it. We just put their heads together, and we should have actually got in there and sort of intertwined their hair a little bit.
Now,
we didn't.
I've seen either Polaroids or outtakes of that photo shoot, and they were actually in that position, right? Like one behind the other.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They were doing the pose, right?
Yes. Two guys were sitting and two guys were behind them, kneeling on something to raise them up. And I don't think they were.
I also heard that there is some retouching and collage involved because they pick different faces from different shots. Is that true?
Yeah. If you look at today's Facebook, it's coincidentally, and there's a page, one of the KISS pages.
Yeah.
KISS groups, 70s KISS, I think it's called.
Okay.
And there's a fellow on there, and he said, he was asking, hey, Dennis, and that's how it got my attention, so I looked at it. Hey, what can you tell us about the Dynasty cover? There's a lot of questions. And people, I said, well, coincidentally, I'm doing an interview with Claudio Bergamin, and, you know, today. I said, and Claudio, we're going to shoot it. And I said, it takes Claudio a little while to edit and upload. I said, but when it is, I'll give you a heads up. Maybe your questions will be answered.
I guess so.
And he said, it's the most expensive album Kiss ever did. And why? Because they used hundreds of different photos and parts, and they put them all together, hundreds or thousands, I don't know what he said. And they had to stick them all together, and then they had to use extensive retouching to take out all of the places where they were put together. Well, that's a gross exaggeration. It's crazy. And I even answered him, and I said, no, no, no. Nothing as complicated as that. But I didn't go into detail as to what happened. How he got that, this guy, how he got that idea in his head, it's probably, I'm guessing, from Chris Lent's book, Kiss and Sell.
Right.
Chris has a little page in there where he mentions me as the art director of Kiss, and he mentions the Dynasty cover, and he mentions the fact that we had to take bits and pieces from other photos and put it together and make one photo or something. And even Chris made it sound like way more extensive than it really was. Mm-hmm. And he was there in my art department, and maybe I had the photos on my drawing table at the time, and I was explaining it to him. And the big reason was Paul Stanley. Paul, if the little curl isn't just perfect,
okay.
He doesn't want, or this curl is nice, but I want that curl over here. Stuff like that. And literally, that's what we did. So most of it was Paul's hair. Also, I think we took Paul from a different shot and put him into that shot, which was easy enough because it's all hair, it's all dark. You could practically do it without retouching.
Right.
Almost, but you still have to retouch a little bit. But it wasn't difficult. The difficulty was his hair and screwing around with that. So yeah, there were bits and pieces of hair. We took his whole head, we put it in. Not as complicated as everybody made it sound, but it was a little complicated, a little bit.
Now, you were supervising this photo shoot, the whole thing, right?
Yeah, I was there.
Uh-huh.
That picture of me with them with the straight jacket.
I've seen that picture. It's great.
That's where it came from, yeah.
Yeah. So I have a few questions about the actual photo shoot. If the purpose of the picture was to blend them in, why did you have them wearing white spandex and not black spandex?
We never thought, well, first of all, we never thought the white would show. I don't know why it was white and not black. That is a damn good question.
Okay.
Because I look at it myself today and I say, why the hell didn't we have them in black? So at least it would disappear a little bit.
A lot of people,
would have been easier. But as it turns out, not much of it showed. Somebody's shoulder, maybe, on the outside.
That's my next question, actually. A lot of people speculate that they were wearing the restraining jackets, but no, they were wearing white spandex, right? Very tight.
That's right.
For that photo. Okay.
That's right.
So, funnily enough, there is a version of the cover, of the album cover, that it's all blended in, all in black, perfect, right? But there's another version. I don't know how this got out, but it's brighter. You can see all the details in the hair, and you can see a little bit of the white and Paul's shoulder.
It's an outtake that somebody got a hold of.
How come there's two different versions of the album cover? It's weird.
It's a bootleg or something. It's not a real album cover.
No, it's not a bootleg. It's
how the hell did that happen? I don't know. Didn't happen on my watch when I was there. I really don't know.
Well, there was a reissue of all the catalogs in the mid 80s, like 85. Is it possible that they got a hold of a different slide for the album cover?
Yeah, except I don't know how it would be possible because in 85 I was still there. It was in my files. Mm-hmm. I didn't give it to anybody. Mm. If they wanted to redo it, they would have used the real art. Mm. So I don't. That's a little mysterious, yeah.
It is a little mysterious. And also, I noticed that for being a square, Peter's and Ace's chins are chopped. They're not, the faces are not full.
Is that right? I go to my handy dandy little cards that somebody gave me years ago. And he had the whole set, and he took the ones out of the set that I didn't have anything to do with, and he sent me only the ones that had something to do with.
Okay.
Pretty cool. But I like these little cards. They give you the details on the back, you know? Yeah, chopped off. And Gene's head.
Yeah. Oh, Gene's head is chopped, yeah. And yeah.
That too, really.
Well, he has a big forehead. White forehead. And there's another interesting fact about the
I wish I could do this again. I do.
Why?
Oh, I don't like the position of their heads that much. I don't like the I don't like the fact that he and he are kind of close, and he and he are kind of close, and there's more space in between.
The symmetry.
I would have put them closer together this way so that it was all very uniform spacing.
The symmetry.
It really bothers me.
The symmetry bothers you.
Yeah, and part of the fact is that, you know, we're going to this really famous photographer studio. I wasn't intimidated, but I kind of felt that this is a day where I'm going to take a step back. I'm not going to be telling the photographer what to do at every moment. I wouldn't do that anyway, but I would tend to do it a little bit more if it was just some other photographer. You know, hey, Bernard. You know, I told Bernard a couple of times, I said, Bernard, you're cropping the photo in the viewfinder. Stop that. Back up. You're not giving me any room later.
You didn't have a relationship with this guy. It was a new guy with a big...
Never met him. And he was so well known. He turned out he was not a prima donna, which he could have been if he wanted to be. He wasn't. Nice guy. He was older, even then at that time. I went into a studio. We were getting ready. The guys were just arriving. I knew it was going to be 2 hours before we were in front of the camera, probably, by the time they got their makeup on and all the rest of that. Mm-hmm. So I said, hey, you got a bathroom here? I have to. He says, yeah, upstairs. He lived in his studio. He lived above the studio. And I said, by the way, what should I call you? Should I call you Scavullo? How do you? Francesco? He said, Frank, maybe?
How do you remember all of these details?
Exactly. And he said, you could call me shithead if you want to. Why would he say that?
Very weird thing to say.
I said, oh, I'll call you Frank, okay? So that was my meeting with him. And like I say, I had a tendency to step back that day and not get too involved. If I had thought about it a little bit more, if I had relaxed just a little bit more, I would have said, hey, wait a minute, I don't like the spacing here. I'm just not seeing it at the moment, you know? I'm looking at other things and I don't know. So I wish I could do it again. It would be a little bit better. I could have done it with retouching, come to think of it.
You know, my perception of the album cover, after, and this is something I thought after learning that it was done by this famous photographer, is that the lighting is very simple. It's just a softbox on one side, as opposed to a much more elaborate type of lighting.
I left it all up to Scavullo.
Right.
The lighting. I didn't say I want dramatic lighting.
But it's very simple.
I want lighting. I just said I want the hair to blend together, Frank. So we're going to put them together, you know, and we have the foreheads and the hair. So we posed them, and he helped pose them. Hmm. That was it. He used the standard beauty lighting,
right,
like he would have done for a cover of Vogue.
Right.
And it's funny, you know, he used a Hasselblad camera, which all of the big photographers used back then, fashion. They used Hasselblad. You know, 2 1/4 square format, big 120 film, 2 1/4 inches. And you know, they all had 3 Hasselblads because, what does it have, 10 pictures in it? 12 pictures on the roll. And the back, you know, just snaps on, and he goes whack, 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 down to 12, and he takes off the back and he holds it up like this, and an assistant comes, takes it out of his hand, and hands him a new one. Bang, bang, bang. That's the way they work, you know.
Wow.
All preloaded, ready to go. The film is going out, and then you see the guys are working behind them, you know, busy. And he has the guys there posing. He's got his Hasselblad on the tripod. It wasn't free, you know,
Right.
like you see some 1970s movies with the photographers going, you know, running around with their camera like that. It was on a tripod.
That's kind of logical because he was doing a very static shot.
Very static, yeah. Yeah, made sense. And, but it's, so, you look through the viewfinder, it's a single lens reflex. You look through the viewfinder, you focus, and it's how you get the focus. And there's a little flip up magnifying glass in there. You can look at your ground glass and really get it sharp. Mm-hmm. He had a piece of string hanging from the front of the camera, and he took it and he walked it out to where the guys were sitting, and he held it up to one of their noses or chins like that, and he looked at the measurement, which was probably on the string, I think, and then he went back to his camera and he put that measurement on the lens. That's how he focused.
Wow. So he didn't rely on his.
Yeah, they're 4.7 feet away.
He didn't rely on the.
He might have looked through the viewfinder, but he did the string thing. Wow.
That's
I thought it was like Matthew Brady and Abraham Lincoln. You know, really weird old way of getting a focus, you know.
That's very interesting. There is another interesting fact about the cover. Gene's face expression. He started doing that face in 1978 because he got braces, right? So he was trying to cover the braces and doing this face. Which is kind of silly if you think about it. Look at his face.
Go back and look at this again. Yeah.
Right? So there's a lot of pictures of Gene from 1978 on.
It shows lower teeth.
Lower teeth and covering his upper teeth because he was wearing braces.
Oh, well. The Gene pictures that make me laugh the most are when they took the makeup off.
Which one?
All of them. Just look at them.
Trying to be sexy?
Trying to look mean and tough. And he looks like a jerk. Trying to look mean and tough. So he's always going like this. And I'm looking at him, I said, you look stupid, Gene. Don't do that. You know, because when he had the makeup on, I even remember at one photo session, he's doing all the faces. He's got the makeup on. He's doing all the faces. And his tongue is out almost all the time. And I said, hey, Gene, I said, let's do the tongue 25% of the time, not all the time. I said, and your menacing faces, I said, you do them great. You're a good actor, you know, with the makeup. I said, but you don't have to do them every time either. You could just do this because you've got this crazy makeup. You look menacing if you don't make any kind of face with the makeup on. And he said, oh yeah, you're right. I forgot, he said. I said, because they look good. They look good without making faces sometimes. You know, they look great. So when he took the makeup off, he had to do something. And he was always trying to look tough.
It's widely acknowledged or discussed that he was completely just lost in he lost the character after he took the makeup off. He didn't know exactly how to act.
He felt naked.
Exactly. So you can see a lot of that in the earliest non-makeup photo shoots, like the one from Lick It Up and Animal Life, that he was trying to find a new persona.
It's hard to put that face on, you know. Mm-hmm. And they look terrible. Those expressions look terrible.
So was there ever a consideration to use the straight jacket shot as the cover as opposed to the poster?
Well, briefly. I mean, that's why we shot it.
Oh, you shot it for the cover?
I think so. I mean,
wow.
It wasn't said. It wasn't said like that, Claudio. It was said, all it was, look, we've got Francesco Scavullo. He's expensive. Mm-hmm. We booked him for the day, I guess. You know, we don't know. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking to myself, if nothing goes wrong, this shot that I have in my head, four heads, mm-hmm. not going to take any time at all. I mean, if we shoot more than 3 rolls of film on it, we're just wasting film. What's the difference going to be one shot to the next? Hardly any. I mean, little expressions and, you know, I don't know. So, and sure enough, we were kind of done pretty early. I said, you know, we just kind of looked at each other and said, I think we got it. I mean, whichever one it's going to be, it's in there. It's in the can. And at some point during the shooting, somebody said, let's, and it wasn't me, let's do straitjackets. And they said, oh, and they sent somebody down to Bellevue Hospital, which has the biggest psychiatric wing in New York. It's even used as a term, Bellevue. You should go check into Bellevue, you know. So Bellevue is psychiatric. The crazy house. So somebody went down there and got 4 straitjackets and brought them back. I don't know who it was.
Oh, they're real straitjackets.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Wow.
From the real crazy house. They came back, they put the straitjackets on, and we shot. Now, it was only after the film was developed, they were back in the offices and were looking at stuff, that I think that they, meaning probably Bill O'Coin and my boss maybe, they just thought it was either in bad taste or it was a little bit, you know, these people are have mental problems. Are we making fun of them? I don't want to do that.
Right. Okay.
And you know, things like that. They just decided against it. Somebody pointed out to me that Ted Nugent had done that before.
It's a fair point.
Yeah, and I don't know which point. Which point?
Oh, the point that it could be ill perceived.
Yeah, and I think so too. And but then somebody else pointed out, they said, oh, Ted Nugent did that 2 years earlier, and maybe that's why they didn't do it, because they didn't want to. I said, oh, I was unaware, totally unaware. What? So, but we had we got some good poses from the straitjackets. The poster shot, the shot that comes inside the album.
Yeah, they're wearing black, right?
Yeah, and it has that nice outline, very fine KISS logo on gray. It's a very tasteful design. Mm-hmm. I love that poster. It's one of the nicest things I ever did for them, I think.
It's a great picture.
I really like it. The picture works. The little design with the hairline logo instead of a big bold logo, you know. And the picture's good. And so that picture, what they're wearing black, was one of the straitjacket pictures. And then we made it all black with airbrushing.
Okay.
And we did that because they were all looking good. We captured good expressions. The arrangement was nice, but we didn't want to use the straitjacket, so we made them in black. It's black. You can't really tell clothing though if you look at it.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just black. It's kind of black. You don't see arms. You don't really see necks or stitching or anything like that. So it's just kind of black.
It was retouched.
Oh yeah.
To make it black.
Yes.
Okay.
All airbrushed. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Airbrushed or dye transfer. I can't remember how we did it. Probably it was a dye transfer.
Do you remember what?
I do. I love that shot.
Do you remember what's the name of the font you used for the word Dynasty?
Yeah, I thought it was something called Dynamo, similar to the word Dynasty. Just coincidentally, I didn't pick it for that reason. But I had some, super KISS fans. You know how they are. And they looked it up and they said it's very similar to Dynamo, but it's really not. It's this. And then they said another name, and I don't remember it.
I believe I said this to you in one of the previous episodes, that a lot of those 70s fonts that originally you would get in this transfer sheets.
It might have been from Transfer Type.
Yeah, the name have changed. They don't have
the names have changed, right?
So I don't know what's the reason, but a lot of them have had several different names throughout the years. So
you're right. Yeah,
you can find them on the internet, almost all of them with different names.
Right, and Lecture Set. The original brand for Transfer Type was a company called Press Type.
Hmm.
Press type.
I remember the one I used to use. The brand was Mecha Norma.
Wow. Down there in South America?
Yeah.
I don't know. See, I don't know that brand.
It was there was another brand. I can't remember the brand, but the one I used the most. I still have some back in Chile in folders, all used and scratched down.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was that brand, Mecha Norma.
Ah, yeah. Wait a minute. That sounds familiar now.
Mm-hmm.
I think they might have done other graphic supplies besides transfer type.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know what. Well, then Ledger Set Company came out.
Mm-hmm.
And when Ledger Set came out, they actually had a different substrate that the type was on. Press type had kind of a wax paper or something.
Yeah.
But Ledger Set had this plasticky stuff. So if you press really hard, it
Right.
make bumps and stuff. And
I remember that. I remember there were few that have this really hard plastic, and it was hard to scratch. You know.
Yeah.
And then there was another brand. I think Mechanorma had this kind of wax paper, but it was much friendlier, easier.
Friendlier, came right off, and it didn't bulge. But so I had a lot of Ledger Set. We bought it as soon as some cool-looking typeface came out. I bought it. You know. So we had a case, something like this, but it was a little bit bigger and had a lot of little drawers. And we kept our Ledger Set in there. And I tried to categorize it as a little bit, you know.
Do you remember when you were working on a transfer and you were like halfway the sentence or the word and one of them breaks?
No.
And half of it is on the paper and the other half is on the transfer.
You got to scrape it off and you know, start again, whatever.
Yeah, you have to start over because you're never gonna put that little piece in and match it.
Oh no, you can't. You have to. Well, you can scratch the letter off if you put your razor blade flat, you know, and if you got a good illustration board. But yeah, it was like, you think about it now, the labor involved in producing art and layouts, the labor. And people had specialties. I mean, guys would do, you know, comprehensive sketches all in marker. And they had these enormous marker sets that had every color and every shade of, you know, beyond what you could think of. And gray from 0 to black and every gray in between. And that would be warm gray. Then they had cool gray, and then they had, you know, on and on and on. And we hired guys every once in a while to come in and, you know, freelance and do sketches. And they'd bring their stuff. I just look at them like this. Wow. And before then, they used pastel. Chalk.
Yeah. I remember that story. That story you told me when you went to talk to Carugati about the solo albums, and you told me that there was different room with different guys with different specialties, you know, in this, right?
That's right. Oh, that's right. It was amazing. I saw some guy doing an illustration with gouache, and it was, I don't know, I think it was for a wine label or something. Mm-hmm. And he had the vines, and he was painting the leaves and the grapes, and it was beautiful. It was like, you put it in a museum. I mean, these guys had skill.
I always, you know what? I always remember when I was just starting, when I just started getting into art, like in a more serious manner, and I went in to study. And I remember art workshop were just a thing of magic, because I mean, not just the tools and materials spread around the workshop, but, you know, discarded drawings and masks and all kinds of, it was very interesting to go in. It was like a hobbit cave, you know?
Yeah.
Now you just have a computer. It's kind of very unimpressive, you know?
It's so true. It's so true. All the special little supplies that you had to have and the little tools. Yeah. I saw, you ever watch, there's a show on TV called Storage Wars, and it's about people who go and buy storage lockers.
I've seen a few.
Right, and you bid on them. Everybody stands for You know, they get a look inside the locker and they say, give me $100, I'll give you 150, and eventually somebody buys that locker. Then they go through it and they see what they bought.
Right.
They're not allowed to look at it. Well, they're just allowed to look in, but they can't go in.
They give you like 10 seconds to look and see.
Yeah. And you can't touch anything, you can't go in. So one guy buys it, he's going through stuff, and he opens up a little leather case or something, and I recognize immediately what it is, and it's just drafting tools. It's a, compass, nice compass, ruling pen. You know what a ruling pen is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and those things. There's several of them in there. Usually made in Germany.
Stedler,
right? And so I said, how? He bought himself, he got a little drafting set. He had no idea what it was. He's looking at it like it was something from Mars. He said, I better take this to some kind of expert and have it looked at. I'm saying this is such a great example of how history
it's terrible.
Dies. Within 1.5 generations, people they don't have a clue. Don't have a clue. And he took it to an expert, and the guy looked at it and said, well, this is a drafting set. He says, we used to, before computers, people needed to, And
by this time, there was a lot of money and effort to make the photo shoots larger than life and thematic, theme-like. Each member had their own theme. Who was that idea? Was it yours or Bill Cohen's?
I don't know. It seems like one of those things. I mean, since we knew what their personas were.
Yeah.
Right. Without talking about it that much, we knew. It probably started with the colors.
Mm-hmm.
Remember we talked about how during their solo albums, and I was looking at Carugati working, and at that point, he was making kind of a yellow backlight, because I said they have to be backlit. They're on black background. Their hair is black, so you have to do something to separate. So like a little glow backlighting. And
you got the color from those pendants that you did use.
Yes, a couple of years before, I remembered that thing. So I said, "Oh, you know what, Geraldo, don't make it yellow." He was going to make them all yellow, like a light in a photographer studio would be that color. I said, "Here's the colors." I said, "You got a PMS book?" We took the PMS book, we took out color chips, and I picked out a red for Gene, etc. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of that is, Gene is the monster and he's the spaceman and stuff like that. Like I say, without saying it, without spelling it out, without discussing it, it just kind of morphed into it. It just kind of built into that, and we all knew it, and that was it. So the photos that you're probably talking about mostly are Bernard Vidal photos.
Yeah, there's one with Paul is holding a glass of wine in a kind of very romantic scene.
Yeah, also the roses. There's a lot of roses. Yeah, and the girl's hands, like that. And that was a long couple of days. We shot one guy early and one guy late, and then the next day the same thing. One guy early, one guy late. It was a long day.
I remember that funny story you told me about Ace's one when he got drunk and he was. Oh,
that was down. That was another day, but it was the same idea, the same fantasy.
Do you remember anything interesting about any of the other photo shoots, Gene, Paul, and
You mean with the one I'm talking about now with Bernard?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I wasn't there for Peter's. I might have stuck my head in and looked to see what was going on, but I didn't hang around. We had a girl at one point, and they persuaded her to take her clothes off. Not completely naked, but topless. And that kind of stuff always makes me kind of, I'm not a prude, I've seen naked ladies lots of times. But, they get caught up in these moments and they want to, hey, why don't you take your clothes off? Fuck. Stop acting like a sophomore in high school, for Christ's sake. They grow up a little bit. That's the way I felt about it. But
and also I imagine there was a consideration that by this point, 1979, like a majority of Kiss's target audience were teenagers and pre-teenagers, right? And kids. So maybe some things were inappropriate for that audience, right?
Yeah. Well, so when we're shooting Gene, you know, we had like a volcano built.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, two of them, I think. And right behind the mouth of the volcano in the back, it's like made out of cardboard and plywood, whatever. That was painted like a volcano, and it looked like, you know, some lava had come out of it, and you know, it's pretty nice. And Bernard took care of a lot of the set building and props and stuff like that. And so we're doing Gene. We had a sword for him with some blood on the sword, something for him to hold and interact with, you know. And we had a pyrotechnician. And he had stuff set up right by the mouth of the volcano, and he could blow it off, and it would be sparks coming straight up and smoke. And, you know, you'd have to shoot like that and try to capture it. Again, a difficult shoot, difficult to capture that, because we shot a lot of times we missed it, or it didn't look right, or, you know, it's a hit and miss kind of a thing. So we were doing it, and it took 10, 15 minutes between every time we blew it off for the pyro guy to set it all up again. And we're shooting Gene at midnight, 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning. It's just going on to the deepest part of the night. And we're all sitting around in Bernard's kitchen, and the chute is right over there, 20 feet away. And they're preparing. So we're sitting in the kitchen, chatting, me, Gene, around like a little kitchen table, you know.
Gene in full costume.
Oh, yeah. It would have been a surrealistic photograph for sure. And too bad we didn't take that. Well, after shooting off the pyro a number of times, the place filled with smoke. And Bernard opened up some windows to let it out, you know. Now, Bernard's studio is on 7th Avenue, about 54th Street, right in the heart of Manhattan, right up from the Sheraton Hotel. And, you know, I mean, it was just in the heart of Manhattan. But he had a small studio. It was very small. I don't know how he managed to get all these things. And before you know it, the door doesn't break open, but bursts open. And the fire department rushes in. Firemen, helmets, oxygen tanks, axes, ready. And they burst in and they look around. And they very quickly see what's going on. It's a photo shoot. The guy's a licensed pyro guy. They didn't even ask him for his license. And they, you know, got big raincoats on and stuff. They look like men from Mars almost. And they turn around, they start to go out. They don't say much. Professional.
You should have got a picture of Gene with the fireman.
Well, Gene is sitting at the table, and there's a remark I'll never forget. And the fireman's going out, and Gene goes, "Nice outfit."
That's great.
So I told that story to Peggy, our writer, Peggy Tamarkin. And she wrote a little book about Kiss, you know? So she included that anecdote in the book. But the one with Bernard was, because it was the middle of the night, you know, I was exhausted. And I probably had been there earlier shooting Paul, if it was the same day, let's say, I'm guessing now. That was a long day. And I went home, maybe it took had a bite to eat, maybe a half an hour nap or something. And got in a cab, I went back down to Midtown and did Gene. I was really wiped out.
You know, by this time, they were all millionaires, 4 of them. So was there any change in their attitude towards you or any of the other collaborators at Howard Marks? You know, inflated ego, now they're millionaires, you know, big shots. Did you notice any change in their?
I noticed changes in their attitude towards themselves. Yeah, sure. You know, Ace was never that humble. I don't know what impression people have of him. Like he's just a regular guy, and he's the guitar player. He's nothing like Gene, who's all full of himself and ego, and you know, sort of an asshole half the time because he's so full of himself. And Paul not being an asshole, but being, you know, narcissistic sort of, and he likes himself a lot, and that sort of. It's not a different thing. And Peter just being nuts. half the time. You know, who the hell knows what you're going to get out of him? But Ace, I saw an arrogance at Ace. He was nice, you know, sometimes and stuff, but I saw like a little arrogance. And I remember when he was talking to Howard Marks one time, he said, I always knew I was going to be a star. Always knew it. Oh, okay. Is that confidence or is that something else? I don't know. Right around this time, 78, 79, they flew me out to California. It was the trip where we took that great centerfold shot that wound up on Alive 2.
Mm-hmm.
Right? All the pyro.
Yeah.
The stage and the pyro.
You told me that story in a previous.
Yeah, and well, I was in my hotel room and they got the boys up there to look at slides. I had 3 carousels of slides, the old slide projectors.
Yeah.
They're called a carousel.
Uh-huh.
And I loaded them, but they gave me the slides just haphazard. And I had to load up the carousels before the meeting was coming. A lot of pressure, really. And you know, you have to load the slide upside down and the emulsion side forward so that it reads right on the screen. I don't have a light box. I don't have a magnifying glass. I don't have anything. I'm in a hotel room. So I'm by the window holding up the slides and I'm loading. The carousels hold 140 slides, the big ones. And I loaded 3. And so now we're showing slides. They came, they show up. And I'm organizing the slides. I'm not just loading the carousel. I'm going 2 people, 4 people in the shot, 1 person. These are all Ace. These are all Paul. These, you know, I'm trying to do that. I did a pretty good job. Very fast, very well. Before the meeting starts, Bill Aucoin shows up for the meeting, picks up one of the slide trays, and turns it upside down. And they all fell out. Now they have locking rings, but I didn't have any locking rings. So they all fell out. Oh shit, so I'm picking them up and they're going again. The guys are gonna show up. And I got them all loaded. Like a miracle. Now we're showing the slides and I'm showing Ace. And Ace is looking. One of the slides comes out upside down. Ace goes, what the fuck kind of shit is this? Who the fuck ordered the fucking a load of these fucking wasting my time? Honest to God. Honestly, I couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it. So this is another case of somebody almost getting a broken nose, but I, you know, had to control myself. And Bill Aucoin standing right there. He didn't say, I'm sorry, Ace, it was my fault, and I kind of dumped all the slides on the floor. He didn't say a word.
It threw you under the bus.
So it was me. All on me.
That's terrible.
So sometimes you got to eat a shit sandwich, and you got to take big bites.
Well, there's a lot of, I read Christopher Len's book. Actually, it's one of my favorites. So entertaining. And it tells
detail, right?
It tells a lot of things in, you know, the business, just listen to the business part of it. It's just fascinating.
I know.
And one of my favorite chapters is actually this area, 1979, 1980. And the band management and everybody were spending so much money. They were spending more than they were earning because they thought money would keep coming in. Like,
yeah.
It's paid, and it didn't. They had to cancel a lot of shows because the production was so big that the only way the production would be costly effect, meaning you're actually in budget, was to do several shows per city. But they weren't getting the...
To do what?
The only way that the show would pay for itself, meaning stay within budget, was to do several shows per city in the Dynasty.
Oh, stay in the city and
and do several shows.
And not have to transport out and all that stuff.
Right, because the show was massive. And it took
5 semi-tractor trailers.
And 50 people.
2 of them just to carry the sign. Which was huge.
And they weren't getting the ticket sales they were expected, so they had to cancel a lot of shows. So they were, and I think they spent a lot of money in this laser system that never really worked. And then Gene just bought this ridiculously expensive penthouse for Cher in the, I think it was in the Dakota building, the same one as John Lennon used to live, right? So, or they didn't accept him in the building. So they were spending so much money, much more than what they were getting, you know?
Yeah, that's true. And the guys themselves were spending money, personal money. They weren't saving it. I mean, I think Paul was better at hanging on to it than Gene.
Do you have to answer that?
I'm not going to answer it. It's done ringing now. It's over.
So let's go back to the art. I'm curious about the insert, that picture of the KISS logo with long exposure. Did you do that?
Oh, the sleeve?
The sleeve, yes.
Yeah, I did it. Okay, yeah, I forgot about that. Remember the one for Alive? It was the logo, and it was sort of twinkly and pink.
Yeah.
Rhinestones almost.
Yeah, the cover of the booklet, right?
Is that what it was? Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's related, so that's why I'm bringing that up. For that one, I said, what am I going to do? So I took the KISS logo, and I had a film negative made of it. Big film negative, about, 14, 17 square, big one. So it's black film with the clear spot was the KISS logo, clear. I brought it down to David Spindell, photographer. I didn't know what he was going to do, but I knew we were going to use this somehow. Put something behind it, light it, have light coming through. I didn't know exactly. I wanted to talk to David about it. He said, oh, he got some sparkly rhinestone material and he hung it behind it. Then he put the light on the sparkly material, so now you can see it through the clear KISS logo, and then with fuzzy filters and stuff like that, and it looks cool, right? So I remembered that, and I said, okay, let me do something like that, but different. So I took a KISS logo and put it on my drawing board. Then I took a piece of clear acetate and put it over that. Then I got a piece of black paper, which actually came in between the acetate. Remember prepared acetate, which you could draw on it with ink and it wouldn't run or bubble up? It was called prepared acetate. So the ink would stick on it, even if it was water-based, So in between every sheet of prepared acetate was a big sheet of black paper, separating each sheet of acetate, keep it clean and nice. And that was nice, thin black paper. So I took that, and how did this work? Oh, and I put one coat rubber cement on the back of the black paper. One coat. That means you don't have to put it on both surfaces, just on the surface that you're going to stick to, right? So I covered it with one coat. Then I took a hole punch for a 3-ring binder. You take a piece of paper and you put it in there, punch the holes. And they had one that would punch 3 holes at one time for a 3-ring binder, and they lined up just right, So I took the 3-hole punch, put the black paper, which had the rubber cement on it, and punched out 3 little dots. And I took them with a tweezer on the acetate, which is over the KISS logo, and I put it carefully on the KISS logo, tracing right where they go. Mm-hmm. And I had to count. I said, well, every vertical gets 12 dots. I got to make sure I'm consistent, and whatever it is, 12, 10, So I had to be consistent. So I counted each time, and I did it. So now on clear acetate, I have a KISS logo made out of dots. Black dots on clear. I sent that out. I got a film negative again. And I got a big piece of black film with clear dots. I brought it down to I brought it down to nobody. I took I gave it to somebody. I gave it to a guy. In those days, I used to drink my lunch at the Copacabana, the world famous Copa. It's right across the street from the office. Mm-hmm. 10 West 60th Street. And we were 655 Madison, which was 60th. So it was right there. Across the street, you're in the Copa. And I used to meet a lot of other guys, not a lot, a handful of guys from advertising. We all met at the bar. Nobody knew about drinking at the Copa for lunchtime. It was considered a night spot. But they were open. Yeah, stop calling. It was known as a night spot. So, but it was open at lunchtime. What? I'm not going to have 4 rings.
Do you have an old school phone with the dial thing there?
Yes. Because I have a wireless phone, right? A regular wireless phone, modern, but I can't hear it ring. Rings like this. Diddly, 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 diddly. I don't hear that great anyway, but this thing could be right next to me and I hardly hear it. So I went in my closet and I found an old dial phone that I had. And I plugged it into one of the outlets, and so everything's ringing.
And it works? That's crazy.
Yeah, it works. It rings like crazy. Sometimes if I'm near that phone, I'll just pick it up.
That's remarkable.
Sounds great. Works great.
So you are the Copacabana.
I'm in the Copa, and one of the guys there, guy Chuck Cunningham. Chuck, where are you? I don't know. And I didn't, Chuck was a drinking buddy. I never socialized with him or anything, but I remember these names. And Chuck said at his office, they have something known as a 4-ox camera. And it creates a digital effects. Mm-hmm. So not computer, it was still optical. But how it worked, don't ask me. But you could move it and manipulate it, and you could get weird exposures, and by moving, and you could get movement and swishy looking things and lights. And I've seen results of the 4-ox camera. I never used it for anything, and I didn't know how really it worked. He said, I got the 4-ox. He said, give me that. Let me try some stuff. So I gave it to him. And he tried a bunch of them. He gave me a bunch of them. And I finally got that one. That was the one we picked. I gave him the colors to use.
For each letter.
And that's the one we wound up using.
Oh, it's very cool. Very
cool. 4-ox camera. Look it up. F-O-R-Ox. I don't know.
I will.
I don't know how you spell it.
I'll overimpose a picture of it when I edit this. But I always thought it was a very cool insert. And I always said, you know what? I would wear a t-shirt.
That's how it was done. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. I wonder why nobody picked up on that one. The blood is better.
Yeah. No, you know what? Of all those 3 compositions you did, this one, Love Gun and Alive, probably the one with the blood is the one I like the best.
Me too.
It's very creative, and it's just very.
I'm glad I thought of it. These things just come to you sometimes, and I said, oh. Mm-hmm. I said, I know what I'm going to do. Yeah, worked out.
One last question.
Yes, sir.
Did you ever hear, or did you ever participate in any conversation regarding the change of concept and sound that Kiss was moving into, like more disco? And was there ever a conversation at Howard Marks' office of saying,
yeah, not that I was privy to. No,
these guys are going off the rails? Was there?
I would have only got a glimpse of that if I happened to be, walking into a meeting that they were having about something else that didn't really concern me, and it didn't happen. So I don't remember anything.
What did you think about it? Did you think they were going too Vegas and too flamboyant for
a little bit? I mean, well, first of all, that costume, over the top costumes, they're pretty ugly, most of them.
They look like Vegas costumes.
They really do. They're a little horrible. I could see how it got away from, tough rock and roll, So that was a little, I wouldn't say annoying to me, but I would think, I think you guys are moving down the wrong path a little bit, in my mind. But especially Peter's costume was stupid. All that green fur.
2 giant green lion heads.
Ugly, not even great looking, just ugly. Cartoonish, weird. Some of the other guys were okay. And I know a lot of times they would come out on stage and wear full costume for the first song, but then they'd get rid of most of it, right? So no, I don't know. I mean, I liked some of the disco-y songs. I Was Made for Loving You. Mm-hmm. That one.
Yeah.
That one. I liked it. It was a good song. I mean, okay, you could tell me it wasn't Kiss, therefore you hate it. But if you take it away from not being Kiss, is it a good song? Yeah, it's a good song.
It is a good song. I
Yeah.
always liked it, you know, and
I like it.
contrary,
Catchy.
sorry?
It's catchy.
It is very
It's
catchy.
a good hook. I've never been against disco that strongly, a little bit, but some disco stuff was great, really great.
Well,
Yeah.
Casablanca was a disco label. Did you do work for them and the disco acts? Well, Casablanca Records was a disco label.
No, I didn't work for Casablanca really at all. I mean, I got free tickets to go see the Village People one time. That's as close as it got.
That's great.
They had tickets for Madison Square Garden. Anybody want 2 tickets? I said, yeah, I'll take them. And I got a friend of mine. I said, hey, Steve, the Village People, what do you say? He said, why not? I tell you what, we had a ball. We had a ball. Great stage show. It was a lot of fun. I loved it. You know, it was great.
Plus, it was 1979. Everything was over the top.
Yeah. Now they had, you know, in the Navy, one of their songs. They had like a battleship on stage. It's like amazing.
Well, 1979 was the year I started being just being aware of music. I was 5.
Oh,
I
it's hard for me to believe.
I do remember my mom just going around the house and just doing stuff and just humming to ABBA or
ABBA, yeah, sure.
or the Village People, or you know, or the
Dancing Queen, come on, play Dancing Queen. Play Dancing Queen by ABBA and tell me that you don't get caught up in that sound.
I love ABBA.
Fantastic, especially that particular song. Yeah, all music is great, you know, and all music has shitty songs. I mean,
I know.
I mean, rock and roll. When I was growing up, rock and roll, right?
You know what?
In the 50s. Rock
I
and roll was being born, and there was a lot of doo-wop, what we call doo-wop now. They didn't call it doo-wop then. So it became popular. Ram-a-lam-a-lam-a-lam-a-ding-dong, ram-a-lam-a-lam-a-lam-a, you know, and a lot of that background and funny sounds. But because it became popular, everybody jumped on that bandwagon.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of shit songs that were sort of imitating what became popular. It was just terrible.
Well,
so everything wasn't good.
Well, that has happened in every era of music.
Yeah.
In the late 80s, there were hundreds of copies, clones of Poison and Bon Jovi and Whitesnake. When you open a magazine, and everybody was trying to do that, even Kiss, they were trying to copy Bon Jovi, you know. So it was every era of music has that part in which the labels are trying to, you know, do cookie cutter versions of what is being successful at the moment. It happened at the end of the 70s, at the end of the 80s.
Let's jump on that bandwagon, right?
So,
and people will buy it because it's new, it came out. They didn't really listen to it, they'll just buy it, you know.
Yeah.
And discover later that it was terrible. You know.
So anyways, I think this is probably one of the funnest episodes we've done. It was really cool. I don't think I'm gonna cut anything. It was everything was entertaining.
Oh, God help us. All right. I saw, by the way, in sad news, did you see where Laurie Greenan died? You know Laurie? Laurie Greenan, she was their wardrobe mistress for Kiss. And then she actually designed some costumes.
She died? Wasn't aware of that.
She died, I saw it on Facebook. She died last April. But someone on Facebook was trying to find her to either interview her or something, and discovered that she had died.
Oh, wow.
And I only bring it up because Laurie and I were close for a little while. She was a great kid. I loved her. She was, you know, she was funny and humble, and she had a wonderful personality, really wonderful. I really liked Laurie. And I don't know anybody who didn't. She was just that kind of person. Anyway, so I thought I'd bring it up.
When did she work for Kiss? Between what years? You know those?
Well, It's on Facebook. I have to look it up.
Probably
Toward the end of the 70s or the middle end of the 70s, up into elder era,
okay.
at least. Because I have, you know, the pictures that Barry Levine took of the guys with their elder costumes and there's sort of this shaft of red light, you know, that one. And she was at that photo shoot with me. I was there. She was there. We were the only two there.
All right, Dennis. Well, this was fun. Next one was going to be 1980 and Must. So you have a week to try to recall what was that like.
Oh, Unmasked. Yeah, right.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So I see you next week.
Bye all.
Bye.
Bye, video.